COVID-19 pandemic has challenged the international system like never before. However, alongside unfortunate examples of inequality, we have also seen
kurwanya COVID-19 byagoye inzego z'ubuzima kurusha uko byigeze kubaho mu bihe byabanje. Nubwo habaye ingero zibabaje z'ubusumbane, twabonye ibimenyetso by'ubufatanye bw'abatuye isi byagaragaje indangagaciro ziranga uyu muryango w'abibumbye. Nubwo ifite imbogamizi, gahunda ya COVAX yo gusaranga inkingo ni imwe mu zafashije. Iyo hatabaho ubwo buryo bw'imikorere, icyo cy'inkingo muri Afurika cyari kuba gikabije kurushaho. Ariko tugomba gukora byinshi kurushaho mu kwihutisha gukwiza inkingo muri Afurika. Gukora gutyo ni ingirakamaro ku isi yose. Intambwe zatewe n'ibigo bimwe na bimwe ndetse n'abafatanyabikorwa mu rwego rwo kubaka inganda zikora inkingo mu bihugu bya Afurika nabyo ni ikintu cy'ingenzi cyane. Tugomba kunoza iyi ntambwe, tukubaka uburyo burambye bwo guhangana n'ibyorezo aho bikeneye kurusha ahandi. Tuvugishije ukuri, turacyari inyuma kuri gahunda y'ingamba z'iterambere rirambye SDGs ndetse na mbere y'uko icyorezo cya COVID-19 cyaduka. Ariko birakenewe ko tureba uburyo tugomba guhuriza hamwe imbaraga zacu, tukareba ko dushyira ibintu ku murongo. Tugomba guhindura ubwo bwihutirwe mu kwiyemeza guhamye kwa politiki kugira ngo tugere ku ngamba z'iterambere rirambye. Muri uko kwiyemeza ni ngombwa gushyira imbere guhangana n'imihindagurikire y'ibihe. Ingorane z'uko hashobora kwiyongera ibindi byorezo zigenda ziyongera uko umwaka utashye. Ntidushobora kwemera ko imyanzuro ya COP26 mu Gushyingo iba amasigara cyicaro cyangwa ihuje intego. Nanone kandi tugomba gushimangira akamaro ko guteza imbere imiyoborere ishyira umuturage ku isonga no kubazwa inshingano. Ibintu bitanga icyizere cy'imibereho myiza gusa, ahubwo bituma habaho umutekano uhamye no kugira icyizere cy'ibihe biri imbere. Ibitekerezo by'ihezanguni bihembera iterabwoba na jenoside bigomba kumenyekana mbere bikarwanywa nta gukekeranya cyangwa urujijo.
And confidence in the future. The extremist ideologies that drive terrorism and genocide must be named, identified early, and dismantled without ambiguity or hesitation.
Actually, you have a great deal of negative press from certain Western countries, despite visible and tangible evidence of your achievements. How do you deal with these accusations and vilifications, both publicly and internally? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that's a very good question. There is only so much that one can do, and you, at least from my perspective, you always try to do what you can do, and do the right thing and do it the right way. So the negative press from especially the Western world, it's not new. It has been there in the for the last 27 years, really, since 94, I remember. So there is not much I can do about it, or any of us can do about it here in Rwanda, because yes, it is from the other end. That's how they see things. Whether correctly or not, that's how they, or maybe that's how they want to see things. There's how you see things, but there's also how you want to see things. I think in this case maybe it is both. But so from the other side, ourselves, there is no way I can change easily how someone wants to see me or sees me from their own perspective. Sometimes they must be looking at us through the lenses of their own, where they come from, where things really might be different from our own. So there are ways, maybe one can. The first thing that comes to my mind, what needs, what we can do in Rwanda, is take stock of what the press is saying and try to analyze it and say, well, is this thing right about us? Maybe it's wrong. Or does it have a basis? And maybe you may learn something and it may help you to correct something you can correct. If you really discover maybe they make sense. So that's where we concentrate. First, what we do in Rwanda and what we try to do for so many years now is really our business. We think what we do is our business before it becomes somebody else's business. And we do it for ourselves, and we try to do it the best way we can, because we are the ones who benefit from it or lose from that if we do wrong things. So that interaction between what perception is about you from outside and what you think is right for you to do for yourselves, really I think may help lead even to getting things better. But the concentration should be more on doing what you think is the right thing for you. So that's why we concentrate. We concentrate on saying whatever angle they attack from, criticize and insult and do things and misrepresent us, and we still want to look at, could there be something maybe we need to pay attention to and bring it back to what we all along have been trying to do for ourselves, and then see if it can improve us on many things or one thing or another, and then we move along. That's the only option we have really to deal with that. Otherwise, it will take a very long time for me to go into details of what I think about that. So I just maybe confine myself to these few important remarks I've made. But we also know we have to deal with the world that, and here this is Africa, this is Rwanda, there is from the outside, the Western media and others, well, even sometimes the politicians from there, they really think they are entitled to present us as they want us to be, not as we want ourselves to be. So they always make that judgment of saying, what is he doing? But what is he doing? What is he doing about this, about that, is from how they would do them in their own place. Or sometimes, in fact, not consistent. Sometimes they may criticize you for doing what they do just because they think you are actually not entitled to doing that. You can't do that. That's not for you. It's for us. So there is this back and forth that goes on forever. So in order not to be distracted and keep answering yourself on everything, or being dragged to think like other people think and not think for yourselves about what we should be thinking and doing, you just concentrate on understanding what your problem is and trying to do the best you can to address it, whether they are small things or the hard things, holistically. But keep hearing, listening, and learning. And learning may be one thing or two, and it doesn't matter it doesn't matter. It won't do any harm for people to listen and say, oh, does this really merit criticism? Does it? Maybe it does. And if you find it does, then you address it, but always keeping in focus what is for you. Because we're not supposed to be people just answering to others all the time, or framing our lives and our thinking just along the lines set by others. No, that's not for me. That's not for Rwandans. I think that's.
So you're saying you don't ignore the criticism. You listen to it. You see what's what is valid, and what you might learn from it, and how you might improve some things. But then you're also very capable of, separating that from criticism that maybe you don't feel is unjustified, and you also have your own standards and your own, and one of the things that I love as well is very often the spirit of agaciro that you talk about here in Rwanda, believing in ourselves and self-sustenance, and I think that's a wonderful spirit that others in Africa can also borrow. Okay, our next question comes from another member of the room, and his name is Ken Njoroge. He's joining us from Nairobi, Kenya.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Ken Njoroge. I'm an entrepreneur based in Nairobi, Kenya. Over the last 18 years, I co-founded and built a fintech company that expanded across Africa. We have 18 offices across Africa, serving 35 countries. We employ about 450 people. About 90% of them are young people between 25 and 30. We've been a proud member of the room and a good partner to the AL group. We sponsor 6 students throughout the university program. Recently, we took another 6 in a graduate management program. The plan is to hire about 6 to 10 ALU students from the different campuses, Mauritius and the campus in Kigali. I have been a fan and a big follower of your leadership journey over the last 3 decades, from the early days of the liberation struggle to the current social and economic transformation of Rwanda. When I look at that journey, I see hope for the continent. And my question to you, Your Excellency, is what will Africa and Africans need to do over the next 2, 3, or 4 decades to be able to mirror the kind of growth and transformation that Rwanda has, and for Africa to earn its place in the global stage? Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you for your remarks. And first, the conversation that you have had here was about different growth paths we see in Africa, or can take different parts of our continent. And So I guess the problems of Africa, Rwanda's, and where we have come from, we need, one, to understand that business should not be as usual. And we must, because there are comparisons to make. You look back in history and then where we were 40 years ago, now we are talking about 40 years ahead, and see where others were at that time that were maybe equivalent in terms of the standing in socio-economic development. The last 40 years we found those who were like different parts of our continent have moved ahead so many times and left our continent, our countries of the continent behind. Or even where we were at that time, we have declined instead of. At the same time, like in Njoroge again, like he has just explained what he's doing, what he's able to do, and that means we actually can do certain things. We are able to do a number of things that contribute to raising our economies to the social economic development to a much higher level than where we are now. So maybe we need to be a little bit better organized on our continent and be deliberate and treat what we are doing with a sense of urgency, that there is a serious problem we have to address, not just for individuals. Individuals on our continent, many of them solve their problems. They are well-to-do, they've been educated, they do business, they're entrepreneurs, they're innovators. So at individual levels, we are doing fine. No, but here we are talking about now, well, but that's also a small number. It shouldn't be exaggerated compared to the rest. If we are looking at the whole population of our continent, which is now getting over 1.2 billion people. So now the others, let's say the 80% of that population, and then the countries of our continent that should serve our own people. There has been, of course, in the past, this migration from rural to urban areas, which has both sides. It's a very good side of it. There is also the downside to it, in the sense that these migrations, really deliberate or happening on the basis of the movement of talent and skills and so on and so forth. No. Or how about those who stay there? At what level do they stay of this socio-economic standing? So you find there is huge disparity. So I think the next 4 years we should be addressing this problem, where Africa really, then we see the examples. We need to develop, and different levels of our society need to be part of it and benefit as well, so that the development you see in my country is not just the 10% are doing fine, and then the 90%, and then we count the wealth of the 10% and say, oh, Rwanda is doing very well. No, Rwanda is not doing very well when you have 90 or 80%, left with nothing. So this is the problem we have to address. building on, for example, the contributions that can be made by such companies as Njoroge's, fintechs in the financial sector, financial services, and then you can move to any other sector and look at what is there, what I need to do to fill these gaps that remain, that are huge between these different levels of our society as far as the socio-economic indicators are concerned, where Africa really is way behind the rest of the world. So for Rwanda, therefore, and as part of Africa, and Africa generally, we have some similarities in terms of opportunities as well as the problems we have before us that we have to manage. So it's organization. It's, I'm hesitating to say it's also largely political. The politics, the political economy of our countries need to be sorted out or looked at differently, so that it's about uplifting everybody. It's about actually properly utilizing the resources we have, the immense resources we have. You know, the analogy that has gone around several times where it's like you have everything in your backyard and then you leave it there, you go begging. or something else. Sometimes you have everything around in your backyard, somebody comes and helps themselves with it, and then you run after them to say, give me some, and I have some of it back. Yeah. So this is something that Africa needs to change, and we are capable of doing it. The person who asked the question, Njoroge, is one of those who, and so many of them like him, are capable, if the politics, our politics allowed us to scale that up and spread it, and everybody, these young people who get educated and come up, have that thinking of saying, no, but it's not just for me. It's for my family, it's for my country, it's for my continent. And we can work together. So all these things like the African Continental Free Trade Area that has been put in place, the story about it. First of all, we thought about it too late already. It should have come 20 years ago. 20, 30 years ago. Same time, what does that mean? It means our own countries are not trading with one another like other countries in other continents do. So it's like we are just small silos on our continent, and so we need to break these barriers deliberately, and also really treat what we are doing not as business as usual.
So it's about, so if I can synthesize what I heard you say, you said to really move Africa forward in line with Njoroge's question, it's about not doing business as usual. So going back to the conversation earlier about thinking unconventionally, about recognizing what you have in your own backyard and not just waiting for someone to come and find value in your own, richness that you have. It's also about Pan-African collaboration and breaking down barriers like what the African Continental Free Trade Area is trying to do, and also about leadership and political leadership that ultimately prizes creating opportunity for the vast majority that do not have, and not simply enriching the few that already do. So That's the blueprint for Africa, people. Okay, so we're now going to take some questions from the audience in the room, and I'm going to invite Alice to take us through this part.
Good afternoon again, Your Excellency. My name is Joel Tkogireyezu, and I'm from the African Leadership University, pursuing international business and trade in my third year. My question goes, after the Liberation War in 1994, you had a mindset of saying, let's work together, let's put aside vengeance, and you had to also work with people who were in the government of the overseer of the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. So I wanted to know, what was the mindset as one of the person who were affected directly or indirectly by the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994?
In that case, we had to sort of put aside a little bit our personal grievances that actually rose to the national level, because there were so many involved. But for a reason of reality, that there is nothing you could do at that moment, or even any other moment, to reverse what happened. You could only manage it and try to come out fine in the circumstances, but you couldn't, as a country, we are not going to be able to recover what we lost. We lost people, and there was no way of returning them. So, one, you have to think about how to manage that. The second, you also have to find a way of managing the future. And more importantly, the future. Those who are still alive and those who will be there tomorrow, and the country, and so on and so forth. So where we had to start from was to try and hold the country together. In fact, at one time we had a mixture, even in the government, as you mentioned, where even in the government there were people who also sympathized with even the perpetrators of that genocide, or even who were being accused, actually, but we were looking for evidence. Some people were being accused of actually having participated, but they were sitting in a cabinet. So you see here, you try to transcend almost this impossibility of saying, how? But this man is a killer. This is suspected to be a killer. Or there are signs that how do you have him in a cabinet? The answer quietly in one's mind is, yeah, you have such a people in the cabinet at that moment so that you can secure the future. You remember one time on these commemoration days, a young woman asked me a very touching and maybe complicated question when she asked me publicly and said, President, it's like, why do you keep burdening the survivors with this weight of reconciliation so that the country moves on? In other words, she was telling me, actually, every burden about that is just loaded onto us, which I thought was true, which is true. So I wasn't really so much prepared for that question in that moment. It's like, why? You are always telling us, forgive, do what, and that. So it's like everything happened to us, but you still come to us and say, please allow us to move on. So I anyway quickly thought, it almost caught me unawares. But I quickly remembered something that I had to tell the woman that, you know what, we burden you with all this responsibility and the weight of everything, because you are the ones who have something to give. Because what I meant was, we need sort of reconcile the extremes. Is the extreme of the victims who suffered to the extreme, and then there's the side of the perpetrators, the extremity of what they actually did. I said, the only person I can turn to and go to and say, please forgive, and ask for forgiveness or to give the other forgiveness, is the victim. I can't go to the perpetrator and say what? If you went to the perpetrator, what do you ask him to do? Just say, oh, don't kill again next time, you see. No, this is not an issue to beg from somebody. Just if you were thinking of doing it again, you need to be put in the right place. So, therefore, the burden ended up being on the side of the victims, because they are the ones who had something to offer, to give to society, and that is something very difficult, to go beyond your pain and provide something that can help address the stability of our country for the future.